The fear and confusion that fishermen experience when pulling deep-sea creatures from the mysterious and terrifying depths below. Monsters that have been hidden for centuries being brought into the light. Let's see what our Earth holds for us today with horrifying catches and footage from down under. Siphonophores, my favorite giant underwater creature to ever exist in the ocean blue. They are a sight to behold, and many deep-sea divers and researchers catch these amazing footage reels of these guys. From first glance, they kind of look like a funky looking jellyfish, a complete single animal, but they're not. They're actually thousands of organisms all connected in some way. They're called zooids, and although they are all genetically identical, each zooid has their own specific purpose. Some will focus on the movement aspect, others handle the eating, and some focus on reproduction with themselves. Yes, they simply develop from a single zooid after being hatched from a fertilized egg. This is also a bit of a mystery of how they do this, since they're so incredibly mysterious. After they hatch, the single zooid then begins to multiply with the help of growth zones, growing bigger and longer as time goes on. The biggest siphonophore ever caught was in Western Australia back in 2020. It measured up to 150 feet, now being labeled as the longest animal to have ever existed. It created this bizarre doom spiral to capture its meals. This is one net you don't want to find yourself trapped in. Some fishermen and scientists are out here capturing insanely big boys. Back in October of 2021, a group of workers accidentally caught an overweight, colossal ocean sunfish. This article from Science Times claims that this boy was so heavy they couldn't even get the scale to properly weigh it. It wouldn't give a reading. The only estimation that they were able to give was that it weighed over 4,400 pounds. Sunfish, given the name, usually like to come closer to the surface to sunbathe, but obviously sometimes they run the risk of being caught in fishing nets. When they tried measuring its length, they discovered an insane number of being 10.5 feet long and 9.5 feet wide. Although the video looks extremely painful for the sunfish, they eventually put it back after they took DNA samples and other things. Even though their catch was an insanely big one, sunfish are able to grow even bigger, with many other bony fish of the species weighing up to even 5,070 pounds. The longest and widest one ever measured of a sunfish was 14 feet wide and 10.8 feet across. And a little known fact, their offsprings are called fries. How cute. Depending on where you are in the world, you might sometimes come across a giant squid just hovering slightly below the ocean surface, which isn't necessarily a good thing, and usually the only time deep-sea squids come up this close to the surface is because they're close to passing on. Recorded off the west coast of Japan back in 2023, two divers managed to stumble upon a nearly all-white squid floating along the surface towards a rocky shoreline. One of the people there, Yosuke Tanaka, observed the creature and stated, "We didn't see the kinds of agile movements that many dish and marine creatures normally show. Its tentacles and fins were moving very slowly." Tanaka also made a note of how parts of its skin were starting to peel off, clearly indicating that this giant squid was getting closer to its time. But some fun facts about these guys: they have the biggest eyes in the world, with some of them measuring at 30 centimeters in diameter. The maximum length that they can grow to is still unknown about these creatures, but some researchers speculate that they can get as big as 45 feet long. Yeah, imagine capturing one of these guys in your nets. Your whole boat is going under. Capturing the infamous doomsday fish out of all the fish in the ocean is not a good omen. At least that's what people say anyway. Two fishing pals in September of last year managed to capture the extremely rare deep-sea oarfish. Japanese folklore plays a huge role in why these creatures are constantly seen as a negative sign. They believe that if these ever wash up to the shore, they give warning that there may be an earthquake or tsunami that is bound to follow suit. Although it hasn't really been proven that they're messengers from the sea god's palace, it was a little strange with some cases of oarfish showing up before intense ocean events. But it can also be explained that the temperature and current change from these drastic environmental disasters are also the reason some of these are being washed up or coming close to the surface. Their post involving a photo of them holding the oarfish caused their tweet to go viral over X because of the history that surrounds this deep-sea monster. The longest oarfish to ever be recorded till now has been up to 56 feet long and weighs up to around 600 pounds. You'll find photos online of multiple people trying to hold this monstrosity up as well. Japan is being invaded by giant jellyfish, at least in 2006 they were. Not sure if this is still going on, but for some reason a species of giant jellies known as NOMURA jellyfish had been a huge issue. See what I did there? For the fishermen of Japan's coast, every time they would reel in their nets, there would be several amounts of these things clogging it all up. And when they would finally clear them out to see how much actual fish they got, it was little to nothing. One of the fishermen reported grimly, "It's a terrible problem. They're like aliens. If your nets are full of jellyfish, of course there is no space for the fish. Not only does it ruin the quality of your product, but it eats up so much time in trying to clear out these suckers." The biggest one that they have ever caught was over 6 feet long in diameter alone, and weighed up to 440 pounds. Some good things about them though, they're chocked full with antioxidants. Researchers are using a bunch of the nutrients found in these big boys to help cure a lot of issues, proving that although they are invasive, they can pose some help within the medical world. Could you imagine being the fisherman in this story that accidentally put up a new species of giant isopods up for sale in your market? It was discovered somewhere in Vietnam when researchers luckily stumbled upon the now labeled Darth Vader isopod chilling in a fish market. They chose this bizarre nickname for the fact that its face looks like the iconic sci-fi villain's helmet. I personally don't see it, but I also just don't like Star Wars. Giant isopods aren't necessarily a new discovery, with the first one ever being identified in 1879. They go much further back than that though, with their existence being extremely ancient. Based on previous fossil records, scientists believe that this species has been around for over 160 million years, even older than the T-Rex. They only managed to make it this far in life though because of the lack of predators that they have. Because they live so far deep within the oceans, there really isn't any other creature around to go after them, allowing them to properly thrive and survive in the deep blue. Usually the reason why the majority of creatures are so big down there is because they need the space to carry more oxygen, and it also helps cover more area over time. Less energy to put out with lesser ground to cover. In southwest Tokyo along Suruga Bay, a fisherman managed to capture one of the gentle giants of the sea, the Japanese spider crab, although the fisherman who caught it decided to name it Crab Kong for dramatic effects. Giant spider crabs are very intriguing creatures, and although they look absolutely terrifying, they hold no real threat to anyone. They're quite the little fashionistas as well, and have been given the nickname decorator crabs whenever they were discovered to be literally decorating their shelves with sponges, plants, and anemones. It obviously serves a bigger purpose, specifically so that they can blend into their environments a little more from predators, but it's still cute to witness. When they get to reproducing though, the female giant crabs do not mess around. They're able to lay up to 1.5 million eggs at a time, but it's also because not all of them hatch. The more they lay, the more likely they will be enough to carry on the species. Although they have a limit to how big their main bodies can grow once they reach adulthood, their legs can grow as long as they want. It's also been speculated that they have the longest lifespan of any crabs in the world as of right now. Some octopus can get extremely big. I'm talking anaconda boa constrictor big. The largest Pacific octopus on record right now stretches to about 20 feet long, and its top speed is 40 kilometers per hour. There are many divers out there that are capturing some amazing footage of this beast, and my ultimate favorite is the clip that was uploaded to the Dodo, where a giant octopus got extremely curious about humans. It was definitely new for the diver as well, and stated that this would be the first time he'd be able to interact with an octopus face to face. Removing his glove, he reached out to the octopus and tried to see what the suckers felt like. Obviously, the octopus was equally intrigued with the human hand, but got a little too much into the diver's personal space. But the creature realized this though when the man pulled away, and the second time the diver attempted to touch its tentacles, it was much more gentle this time than the first. Octopus are incredibly intelligent creatures, with some experiments being done on them where they are shown to navigate through mazes, open jars, and are even able to slip out of their enclosures. Do you have any stories of capturing giant deep sea creatures? Post your photo down below, and I'll be sure to talk about it in the next video.